Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Mario Party, the top 100 for 3DS. Now, right off the bat, as soon as you boot up this game, Mario Party, the top 100 wants you to know that the focus is on the minigames. In fact, the very first option on the menu that's highlighted is 100 minigames. And 53 already unlocked from the start. As you might have guessed by the title, this is a collection of, at least in Nintendo's opinion, the best minigames from throughout the 10 console installments of Mario Party. For some odd reason, they decided that the spin-offs on the Game Boy Advance, DS, and 3DS just weren't good enough to make the cut. Most of them have been graphically revamped with the latest art style to make sure that the minigames have a modernized feel. For example, in Mush Pit and Mario Party 3, you now get a Mega Mushroom instead of a regular mushroom to grow big. And in that minigame where you have to skateboard to avoid the Piranha Plant, it's now Petey Piranha. The N64 minigames are the most notable of the graphical improvements, because, oh my gosh, Mario Party games were ugly even by Nintendo 64 standards back in the day, and they look absolutely gorgeous on the 3DS. And, as if things couldn't get any better, this is one of the rare Nintendo games that actually supports stereoscopic 3D. It's not mind-blowing, but at least the option is there. And for that, I applaud them. However, that's about where the charm ends, because Mario Party the Top 100 kind of makes the focus so heavily on the mini-games, which most of them are really great, that the rest of the modes suffer as a result. So there's basically 5 different modes, and I'm going to talk about them sort of from my least favorite to favorite. There's a championship match where you play against minigames with friends. I didn't really try it out because I don't really have friends to play it with. There's also a decathlon, or a half decathlon if you're low on time, where you play a set number of mini-games, either 5 or 10, and then whoever gets the most points at the end will be the winner of the decathlon. Now, there are 2 main hooks about this mode that'll either turn off or really excite you, depending on your preferences. Because on one hand, you have minigame packs, and the more you play, the more you unlock. There could be the Nintendo 64 pack, Goomba Pack, Luck Pack, as if anyone would ever choose that, etc. And that pack will determine which minigames you will play during the decathlon. So there's no option to just have random minigames play. You always have to have a set, and you can't deviate from that set. Also, they score you based on your completion time or how well you did in a point system, as opposed to just you got in 4th place, so we give you this many points automatically. So it's possible to win the decathlon without actually coming in 1st place in the minigames. It all really depends just on this unknown algorithm that the game pulls at you. I mean, it's not really a complex thing, but still a nice way to be able to play your favorite minigames in a sequential order. Then there's the regular board game mode, which has its pros and cons. The pro is that the board is designed in a rather non-linear fashion, whereas in previous Mario games, after you rolled the dice, or die, you would have to move on a set path and only occasionally choose between a forking path. In this one, you have complete control over your movement, and also because this is a handheld game, if you have friends, you can all roll at the same time without waiting for each other's turn. However, on the downside, there's only one board. The board has no hazards. It's a relatively boring design, like it doesn't have any special effects or flashy backgrounds or anything like that. And it's still so entirely luck-based, depending on where the star balloon is and what items you get that can increase your chances of winning. And even worse, you don't necessarily have to play mini-games, which seems kind of like an odd omission, which Mario Party's been going in that direction anyway. But thankfully we have one more mode to discuss. Now we get to Minigame Island, which is the main single-player attraction. So, With Minigame Island, you're faced on a board of sorts, but instead of playing it like a board game, you just progress in a linear fashion. And occasionally there are branching paths, but basically the map on the touchscreen will tell you when there's locks so that you can unlock a minigame. And believe it or not, you don't even have to win the minigame to unlock it. All you have to do is play it, and it's there in the 100 minigames section. You can also collect stars depending on your position in the minigame. Like if you get first place, you'll get 3, second place 2, you get the idea. There's also a live system for some bizarre reason, but it never overwhelmed me because you get an extra life for every 100 coins you get, and you get coins pretty easily. You can get even more if you tap a Mario series amiibo on amiibo spaces, and if you have the Koopa Troopa and Goomba amiibos that were released with the remake of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, you get even more. In fact, I think you might even get an extra life, but I didn't bother buying them because I figured buy new amiibos just for a Mario Party game? No thanks. And I actually liked Minigame Island. True, it wasn't mind-blowing from a graphical standard, but it was a nice way to experience new minigames without the randomness. Like, I knew exactly what minigame I was going to play just by standing on the space. And, sorry, I had to edit out an earlier part because my cell phone has a really crazy text tone. So, Minigame Island ends off with a... My cell phone is something else. Minigame Island ends with a rather satisfying duel against Bowser. Yes, it's a rehash from a minigame from Mario Party 4, but seeing as I never played Mario Party 4, it felt like a fresh spin. And even though it's not one of the harder Bowser battles, it's at least thankful that it's in there at all. And that's about it. I mean, the character selection doesn't really make a difference. They all control the same. Control-wise, the minigames are hit or miss. On one hand, the Nintendo 64 minigames have been greatly improved, with the circle pad having far more precision than the Nintendo 64 control stick. The jumps, while they still feel kind of clunky by Mario standards, they get the job done, I suppose. But it's when you get into the later half of the GameCube era and then the Wii and Wii U games that things start getting really ugly. Especially once they have you use either the microphone or the gyro sensor of the 3DS, when the games just don't want to work as you want them to. Thankfully, there are a couple of single-player minigames that you can unlock, depending on how many stars you get on Minigame Island, and those are actually really fun. It's kind of like those Tetris collections that are all over the DS, and to have them in a Mario Party game is really kind of cool. You can also set minigames as your favorite, like, no matter where you're playing them. On any mode across the board, you can just press the X button, and it'll set it in a playlist so that you can always access your favorites when you're in the 100 minigames mode. The game also does a nice job of remixing music from throughout the series, and depending on the game in which you beat the minigame, you'll get a different victory theme. Which is nice, because Mario Party has always been known for sort of having its own music, as opposed to having a bunch of remixes of past Mario titles. So to have remixes of Mario Party tunes is really refreshing, and they all sound really good. And if they are pulled straight from the original games, it's not like I would be able to tell, because most of my focus was on the Nintendo 64 titles and a little bit of Mario Party 5 and 7 now and then. Mario Party the Top 100 is a decent game. However, since I had no friends to test it out with, I didn't particularly see much enjoyment in replaying it as much, unless I'm super bored one of these days. The game is stupid easy to 100% complete it, and there's not really an incentive to complete it because it's really all about the mini-games. Take that away and the game's kind of dull. But the good news is that I heard that this supports single card multiplayer, and there's no penalty for doing so. So as long as you have a bunch of 3DSs and at least one person has a card, then you're good to go on a cool multiplayer ramp. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.